Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. It's been a while. It's been quite a few weeks, probably a couple of months since we've had you on the show.
Yeah.
You're one of our first victims, and now you're back. So it wasn't too bad.
No, it's good.
No, excellent. So 28th of November. What's happened in the last week? And today specifically, we've got a bit of a building permits AI show on today. Now, some of you out there may know that one of our verticals is in building permits. And what that means is, what a building permit is, hopefully pretty consistently around the world, is trying to put in some documentation to make a change to where your house is or your apartment or whatever that is, so that you can, get it through, whether it's council or whatever the local authority is to do that. And one of our verticals does that. And I thought what we'd do today, for a particular reason, is to talk a little bit about what's happening in the news, and maybe not just in the last week, but over the last, year or so in this space, because it's been a real ramp up in terms of AI activity. So first of all, it's from an AI perspective in government, there's been quite a lot of sort of real change on this. For an example, the Qatari government, I think that's how you say it, Qatari?
I think so.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I hope that hasn't offended anybody. But the Qatari government released in the last month something that said they've put in an AI system that goes from 30 days to 2 hours or 3 hours, which I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. I imagine there's probably a lot of process improvement in that as well, too. It'd be really interesting as they come out with more information about it, exactly how they did that.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine they probably streamlined a lot of the process as well.
Yeah, right up front, probably reasonably new developments going through. But look, first of all, for those out there, and I'm really not trying to have a go at Australia, but a lot of development applications, if we got them anywhere near 30 days, it'd be like the best thing ever. We're at 100 days and we get really excited. 200 days
all right
is
to begin with,
yeah. Yeah, correct. So they've gone from 30 days down to 2 hours, which is impressive, but I'm wondering whether it's a very different world from certainly what we have down in Australia. So that was the first one that was pretty impressive. There is work happening all around the world. So Saudi, Canada's doing it, the US is doing it. We've just employed somebody in the US to start talking about what we're doing in that vertical. And then obviously in New South Wales, there's some really interesting stats. At a show we went to recently, the lead minister in this state got up and said that 2 times as many young people are leaving the state and potentially Australia than 10 years ago. So twice as many young people are leaving. I mean, it's a pretty shocking number, and putting it basically down to the cost of housing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think about sort of the cost of housing in Sydney versus other places that I've lived in the US.
Like even New York.
Yeah, I know. Renting versus buying, it sort of makes sense. There's a lot of good places to live around.
Yeah, around the world. Yeah, exactly right. But there's obviously been a whole lot of people coming out of it, and we hear these things around AI and building permits. People are worried about all sorts of things, from almost Skynet style conversations around Terminator, and I'm going to lose my freedom, to compliance issues that maybe if this AI does it, that we're going to have situations where edge cases in compliance issues, local quirks, heritage overlays, things like that are going to be missed, manual judgment things. And I suppose that's exactly why we've spent a lot of time creating a system that we talk a lot about augmenting, or by being bionic, so that we're providing information to the user or the planner so that they can make a decision without having to play as much time in the tedious work. And that's sort of the other side of the argument. Yeah, if everything goes automated, we've got problems, potentially. A lot of problems, a lot of different areas, and a lot of things get through. But if we get rid of a lot of the noise or the tedious work, then potentially we can provide the planner or the expert, whoever this is, with the right information to make a faster decision and a better decision.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of the things we think about too, is how do we leverage the power of AI to make things faster without losing the benefits of the human in the loop aspect, and making sure that everything that we're doing is compliant as well.
Yeah. Look, it's exciting times for us. We're obviously on the get rid of the mundane tasks to give it to AI and try and do your job better. But there's always going to be people out there that get scared, and it's fair enough. It's a scary time. The only other thing I was probably looking at was sort of, what isn't it for the property investor or owner? And I suppose it's faster approvals. You can, turn around a better ROI. If you can get your approval through in 100 days, maybe you can get faster, better financing. Renovations and small builds, you don't have to spend so much time mucking around to actually get it through. Anything else? Actually, why don't I ask you, Michael, before I actually get to the punchline of sort of one of the main reasons I've got you on the show, which is Michael's off to Austria in the next day or two. Actually, next day. Today. Well, there you go. He's off tonight. There you go. And he's off to Austria, and he can tell you about it. But we're going to is it called the Digital
Building Permits Conference in
Europe.
In Vienna.
In Vienna. Vienna, and it sounds very exciting. Yeah. Even just Vienna, it's a cool sounding town. Then you're off there, and you're basically going to present what we've done in Australia.
Yep.
And one of the reasons we're presenting is we won through one of our councils that has put our solution in a Planning Institute Award. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So New South Wales Planning Institute Award. So that was from Cumberland Council. So they've done a lot of good work with us recently, trying to improve their development application process by using our DAISY solution to really speed up the process, get answers to applicant questions up front, and really save a lot of time to improve their timeframes. And they're seeing good results early, which is good.
And so what sort of things are you going to talk about at this conference?
Yes.
And why are you talking about it?
Yeah, so a couple of good things. So I think we had obviously a lot of learnings over the first year basically of developing the product and thinking about how can we bring that to sort of the global stage, and thinking about the biggest important things that are helpful. A couple things that come to mind, just things that were really interesting along the way, was first, a lot of easy wins when we're poking around at the process and thinking about how they're doing things and how we can inject AI into it. We came across a lot of things that had nothing to do with AI that were really easy things that we could improve. An example would be changing the names of documents. A lot of these councils have older systems where people do a lot of things manually. So just finding things like that when you're going through the process is interesting, because you can really quickly save them a lot of time. I think the second thing is probably thinking about how do we align AI to the planning space, right? It's an interesting area where there's a lot of compliance. You don't want to say too much information where you might basically get the council sued if they say something incorrect. Yeah. So really trying to work with them to understand how do we tone down the language of the AI? How do we make sure that we're still providing information to people, but not in a way that's going to, if there is a mistake, which does happen with AI, that it doesn't get anything into trouble. So that was a really interesting thing. And we learned a lot of really good techniques that made it a lot more accurate with how we answer questions and looking at that.
So I suppose advice is one of those. Like the councils can't give advice. They're not allowed to give advice on these things, or they don't want to give advice either. They want to explain what the rules are and help them out. And AI really literally likes to give advice. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so how do we actually provide the information, give someone a bit of guidance without saying too much that could be unhelpful or could lead them in the wrong way. So we learned a lot of really cool tactics and sort of how do we figure out, how do we limit the context that we give the AI? How do we make sure that we're only looking at the correct documents? How do we use language that provides confidence but doesn't sort of lock in the answer because it's based off of the inputs that the user gives, not necessarily a complete answer that's definitive and the response, but more just, if you want to build that type of house, here's what's going to happen. We don't know if that's actually the house that you're trying to build, but answering the questions that way. That was really interesting. And then I think the next thing that we'll talk about as well, and something that's really exciting, is sort of what's next. So we've been doing a lot of work with some partners in Australia, thinking about graphical user interfaces and how we can basically enable people to test new development types, really make it easy for them to look at development types that might be compliant in Australia, for example, and test them on their lot to get a really clear idea of, okay, is this something that I can build, and how quickly can I get to creating that application that's compliant and moving through the process. So really help people quickly go through a compliant development and identify what they can and can't do, which again would really make the data aspect of this a lot better, where you have really clean data coming into AI rather than just inputs from a person based off of questions. It can be a little bit more more tailored.
And so there's a lot of work to get that clean data right, or does AI really help you get that data a bit cleaner so that, as we're going? Is that, so what would your opinion be on that?
Yeah, AI definitely helps. It makes it better. It's better than a human at reading through it faster. But the cleaner the data, the cleaner the inputs that you give to the AI, the better the answers are, right? If bad in, bad out. So it's sort of one of the things that we learned along the way is if you can clean up the data before you get it to the AI, you're going to get a lot better answers. You're going to get a lot better outcomes for applicants.
Yeah, I remember there was this whole period where we were like getting AI to clean the data to make it ready for the AI to give a better answer. And then that's sort of a really, it's an interesting concept that you do need to check. They still need the human in the loop as well, checks and balances as you go the whole way. Yeah. So how many documents are there again in New South Wales?
How many documents are there?
For this planning stuff?
I don't know the exact number, but there's between 400 and 500.
Yeah.
Some councils will have to look at up to 30 in different instances, which correspond to different parts of the council. So mapping all of that out and really identifying the correct place for the AI to work and to find answers was a real challenge. But we worked with a lot of the councils closely to figure that out and have gotten to a pretty good point where we can answer questions accurately with those, which is really cool.
Very good. And so you're going to Vienna. You've got your presentation. So you're leaving tonight, and you're going to Vienna. And when's the presentation?
Presentation's Wednesday afternoon.
And how many practices do you think you can fit in between then and Wednesday afternoon?
I think we can get 100 probably.
Yeah, 100.
I think that's
100's a
probably
good number. I think that's good. Cool. Yeah. Do us proud. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Thanks very much. Good fun today. And thanks again for coming on, and have a great trip in Vienna, and good luck.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate
Cheers.
it.